Hello there, horse racing fans. Welcome back to the channel. We are just one day away from the Cheltenham Festival. It's a mix of excitement, nerves, everything in between, and it's probably always the hope that kills you. Me being a Tottenham fan, I am used to it, but the pressure is on. You just hope when the tape drops in the Super, your horse can at least run well, give you a sniff of hope. If you don't win that, you've got to pick the winner of the Arkle, and if you don't pick the winner of the first two, you're heading in the Ultima, a competitive handicap, and you haven't got any winners on the board. It is quite a tough start this year, I think, but I've got a few bets lined up, so I'll run through all of them, hopefully have a winner or two. Usually Tuesdays is a good day for me, and it's usually a good day for punters in general. You usually get some of the shorter priced horses going in, and usually it's downhill for the rest of the week for me. Last year, I remember, it was a very good Tuesday, terrible blowout on Wednesday and Thursday. I did bring it back on the Friday, but hopefully we'll be a little bit more consistent and at least start on the front foot. So we'll kick off in the Supreme. My nap of day one actually runs in this. He's been well backed after putting him up at 13-2 just a couple of days ago. Elete Toms, Danny Mullins, Willie Mullins teaming up, and I think this horse is now a 5-1 shot. It's a bet that a horse that I'd probably play each way to nothing. I'd bet him at 5-1. There's 4 places available. If he finishes second, third or fourth, you'll get your money back, and if he wins, you'll hit the jackpot really. A nice 5-1 winner to start the day. Now I think this horse has a lot of potential, and you wouldn't think he's the most experienced horse in this race because he still does plenty of things wrong, but I think he is slowly, run after run, getting better and better. He's had the 7 starts over hurdles, and he started off last year when finishing third behind Vauban and Phil Dor. That was on his debut. He ran twice over in France on the flat. That was both on soft and heavy ground, so if conditions are bad, he has run under these conditions quite a lot, and he does actually like the softer ground, so I think conditions won't be a problem. He finished third on his debut for Willie Mullins behind Vauban. He then finished 5th in the Triumph, and if you watch that race back, he was ferociously keen early on. It was almost weird. His head was up to the left, it was up to the right. He was all over the place. He didn't really settle until after the second. His head was everywhere. That must have burnt a lot of energy. He made a mistake at the first, which he always does in every start. If you go back and watch all of his starts, he's always terrible at the first hurdle. If it was a race in France where they jump a hurdle before the start, he'd probably win the first, but he always is a little bit cautious at the first, slow into it. I just hope he's not so bad at the first this time around, because with 14 runners, you're going to want to get a decent enough position early on. If he makes a mistake, then he's at the back, he'll be lit up, he'll be travelling between horses. That won't be ideal. If he jumps the first well, gets into a good rhythm, I think he has every chance. He wasn't beaten too far in the Triumph last year, probably about 7 or 8 lengths, and coming down to the second last, he was in contention. That Icer Alen for Willie Mullins and JP McManus, that was in front of him, and he kind of ran all over the place. He made a mistake, which meant Elete Toms, my selection, made a mistake, and that didn't really suit the horse. He did recover well. He is quick away from his hurdles. That is one thing when he doesn't make a mistake. He's always back on the bridle very quickly. I think he'll be able to choose the position he wants, Danny Mullins. And if you look at his performance the last day, he won a Grade 1 by 10 lengths. And even if you take out Facile Vega, who obviously did disappoint, and High Definition, who unseated, he beat In the Pocket by 10 lengths rather straightforward. And In the Pocket, who probably might be better over further, he wasn't exactly closing at the line. Elete Toms travelled well into the home straight. He does quick and clear. He does have an impressive turn of foot. He displayed that, and he kept on going strongly enough. He wasn't exactly slowing down when he hit the line, which was impressive because there went a strong enough gallop in that race too. So Elete Toms, I think he is a rock solid horse if his jumping hold the test. He does warm up to the task. You just hope early on he settles nicely. The hood will be on. That hopefully will help him somewhat. He has raced at Cheltenham before as well, so you think second time going to Cheltenham, that might be a booster for him as well. So I think he ticks plenty of boxes. He was tipped up at 13-2. He's now 5-1. I don't think it is the worst bet of all time. Can't have Facile Vega after his last run. He could easily go and win it, but at 5-2, you've got to be putting a lot of faith for not a huge return, to be totally honest. And the quotes from Willie Mullins is quite interested in this, because he's been surprisingly bullish about Alette Toms, and there's been a little squeeze in the market for the supposed second string. Facile Vega's drifted from 2-1 out to 5-2, and Willie Mullins was saying he loves the horse and he hopes he runs well. That is not something that Willie Mullins says often. It's almost as if obviously he does love the horse, he's always thought highly of him, but I think how bad he was even surprised him the last day. So he's opposable. Marine National, every stat says he can't win. I don't think he'll exactly love the ground either, even though he did win on it last time too. So I think Alette Toms ticks plenty of boxes. Danny Mullins, I think he's a good enough jockey to have on our side as well. So 5-1 Alette Toms in the first race. Next up, I won't be siding with Willie Mullins. I'm just going to go with John Bon. And there's not a lot of logic behind this. It's just a gut instinct. I think I can see John Bon winning this. There is a concern about he won't be able to make all, and there's no reason why he shouldn't jump well in behind a horse. He did jump a few upsides. Montmoral, I think it was, at Warwick, and he did jump and outjumped him that day when them two were upside. So maybe he could even bring about a little bit more improvement, having a horse to kind of a pace to aim at and a horse to jump up alongside as well. I think he's the best jumper in this. I think he's got a turn of foot. He goes on the ground as well. And everyone's saying El Fabiola stays stronger, but if you look at Aintree last year, now I know these horses have changed dramatically since last year, but John Bon did get headed on that running, and he's gone back and he's beat him, and he beat him by a neck, but it was comfortably enough. Aidan Coleman knew he had it won in the last half a furlong. So John Bon, I think he's got a perfect attitude. He jumps well. The run at Warwick last time, he did something similar last season at Haydock where he was expected to win. It was a pretty poor race and he made hard work of it. He did it again, and I know Calico, he was giving Calico £5. Calico's gone on one since. It's not exactly good one form, but at least the form has been boosted since then to some degree. At least I know Calico just scrubbed home in a race at Doncaster, but so the form has been boosted somewhat. I just think John Bon is a bigger price than El Fabiola at the minute at 7-4. I think I'd just about side with him, although it wouldn't be the strongest selection of all time. On to the Ultima. Hopefully we do have a winner on the board by now. I am gutted because my selection has halved in price over the last couple of days. The first one, and probably the strongest selection, will be Fantastic Ass, Nigel Twiston-Davies, Sammy Twiston-Davies in the plate. Them two have teamed up for plenty of success at Cheltenham over the years, and this horse, if you look at his form, the Ultimate is a strange race because you pick a horse that has kind of showed he handles the track, he stays the trip, and recent form doesn't actually matter too much. It's just, will they stay the trip and do they like the track? This horse will like the trip and he will like the track. He's got some good form here. He's finished second a couple of times off much higher marks than this. He's had somewhat of a mismatched season. He was back from a billock at Wincanton the last time and he was beaten 11 lengths. I think he was quite rusty that day. He shaped as if it improved for the run. He was carrying top weight that day. He's off a featherweight today, Sam Twiston-Davies, and him will team up with 10 stone, £5, down a couple of pounds from his most recent run. I think a strong pace will suit him. He can chuck in a terrible jump here and there, which is something to be worried about. I'm hoping he'll be held up. He'll be a strong pace. That'll probably help his jumping a little bit better. And if he doesn't make mistakes at important times, I can see Sam Twiston-Davies just creeping into this with 4-3 to go. Hopefully a late challenge. I think he has a good chance of running into a place. There's a lot of horses which kind of are exposed in this. There's some unexposed ones. I think he is well handicapped on his best form. Whether he can get back to it, that is another question. But Nigel Twiston-Davies can plot these horses for the big races. We saw it with under supervision to an extent at Doncaster, even though he was beat. He'd shown nothing all season, unseated, pulled up, unseated, finished 5th, I think, and then he goes and runs a very big second in the big race at Doncaster just last weekend. So I think Nigel Twiston-Davies knows how to prepare them for the big target. He's off a mark of 132. He's getting weight from everything bar 2 horses in this race. So I think he can run well enough at 16-1 in this, and make sure to look for the extra prices. There'll be 6, 7, 8 places I think Sky Bet are going, so make sure to shop around for the places because there is plenty of disparity in what's up for grabs. And my second selection is a horse that is actually carrying less weight than Fantasticas. The bottom weight, the Wolf, Ollie Murphy. He banged in a few winners at Market Rosen yesterday. His yard are in decent enough form. And this horse, like Fantasticas, has plenty of good course form here. This horse was second behind Lord Accord in October last year, beaten 4 lengths, came into that off a mark of 138. He now goes off a mark of 130, and he's only had 4 runs since then, and they all haven't been too bad, to be honest. He had another run on New Year's Day at Cheltenham. That was poor enough, but I think he's jumping. He made a mistake at the first, and that must have affected his confidence, because he didn't really attack his fences after that. Adrian Heskim rode in that day. Paddy Brennan takes the ride, and he has ridden the horse before, and you'd assume Adrian Heskim would have first choice, and he sided with 3 under through 5 for the McNeil family and Paul Nicholls. Maybe that's because he can't do 10 stone 3 on the Wolf. Possibly, I'm not too sure, but that wouldn't be a positive. But Paddy Brennan is capable enough. He does ride Cheltenham pretty decent as well. He's had some winners here in the past, to say the least. And his most recent run was over 3 miles. Big handicap won by Captain Ord. He was obviously chucked in off his mark, and he ran 4th that day. He was held up again. He will be held up again, you'd assume, or at least in mid-division. His jumping was solid enough, but he always seemed to be going astride too fast over 2 miles 7 furlongs. The step up in trip today should suit, and he was being pushed along since after the 3rd last, and you're thinking this horse isn't going anywhere. He stayed on strongly enough. It wasn't anything eye-catching, but he finished 4th in the end, beaten probably about 11 or 12 lengths. His marks come down another £2. He's back at Cheltenham. He's up for much lower weight, and he has run well here multiple times before, so it is a stab in the dark, but he is 40 to 1, and if you can run into a place at 40 to 1, that would be a decent enough return. So between the two of these, I think one of them will at least run into a place, maybe even a winner, but that probably would surprise me as well, to be honest. But it's worth a go at the prices. Next up, Champion Hurdle. No better race for me. I think everyone wants to sit back and watch Constitution Hill win this. I have loved Vauban since he won the Triumph last year, probably because I tipped him up at 12 to 1 a couple of months before the Triumph. But I think he is probably the dark horse in this. I think he probably could serve it up and maybe finish 3rd in the extra places. He could even beat Stateman if Stateman takes on Constitution Hill too early and will probably get beaten. So Vauban could run well, but I think I've got a few bets anti-pose, but it's nothing major, and I won't be betting on him again. Next up, the Mares' Hurdle, probably one of the races of the week for me. Maurice Rock, Honeysuckle, Brandy Love, Epatante, Love Envoy, Echoes in Rowan, even some of the outsiders, the likes of She Wears It Well and Theatre Glory. They're both decent mares in their own right, and you could see any of these running into a place. Epatante is on the drift. She was about 4 to 1, now she's 11 to 2. And I can't see why, to be honest. I think she's got a very good chance in this if the ground doesn't get too soft. And if you look back to some of her form, even last year she was sent off 4 to 6 when she was beaten by Maurice Rock. And she had a tough season. She'd run at Cheltenham, she'd run at Aintree, and then a tired Epatante went to punch us down and was beaten with Maurice Rock, who I think takes her racing a little bit better than Epatante does. And Maurice Rock has only had 1 race since then, so I don't think she's drastically improved Maurice Rock since then. So I'm not sure why there's a price discrepancy that big between the two. Maurice Rock is 5 to 2, Epatante is 11 to 2. I think Epatante is way, way, way overpriced here. She's again an each way to nothing bet. I think there's 3 places up for grabs, and I think she'll finish 1st, 2nd or 3rd in this quite comfortably. I think it's hard to weigh up her form behind Constitution Hill, because how do you weigh up that form? He's probably one of the best hurdlers we've seen in a very long time. She was back at Doncaster and she won a race that she should have won easily, and she won it easily. But I think the way she went about it, her jumping was a lot better. Nico de Boinville rode her instead of Aidan Coleman. I think Aidan Coleman was somewhere else, but it was very much a confident booster, I should say. That was over 2 miles. She showed plenty of speed that day. But I think stepping up to 2.5 miles won't be too much of a problem. She of course beat Zana here over 2.5 miles. They was coming down to the last at Aintree in the Grade 1. Zana here fell, but Epatante was going so easily that day and did see the 2.5 miles out quite well. So I think Epatante at 11-2 here can run very well onto the Boodles. And my nap of the week was Takao until he got a mark of 135. I probably did overreact slightly on Twitter about that. It's probably not the worst mark of all time. McTeague goes, which means Takao won't carry top weight now, 11 stone 5. And if you look at his run, he keeps on getting better and better. He was third behind Gala de Marceau and Lossiemouth. And the important thing is, he was giving them both £10 that day. He was given a soft ride. It was Mark Walsh's first ride back from injury. And it was the perfect ride for him to get back in the saddle because he didn't really have to try at all. Jumped well that day, travelled well, was probably going best turning in. Gala de Marceau kicked and went a length clear. He was probably found out for pace just a tiny bit. But this was in a Grade 1. It's much easier, this stuff. There is a few exciting horses carrying lower weights in this, but he gave £7 to Lossiemouth and Gala de Marceau. And if Mark Walsh fully went for it, I think he'd only finish 2 or 3 lengths off the winner, upside the second, I think. So Takao off a mark of 135. He will be the best horse to come out of this race a year from now. I have no doubt about that. It is a tricky race to win that. I'll have a play at 9-2. And finally, in the last race, I think I am warming to Gaillard de Menil. I didn't really think much of him, but this isn't the greatest race of all time. You're going to have to stay, which I think he probably will. It's not guaranteed, like some people are saying, but he will probably stay the trip. And I think he's definitely got the best form. He was a good hurdler. He's a good chaser. He's not a Grade 1 chaser, but you're not going to have to be a Grade 1 animal to win this. He'll jump well. Willie Mullins, Patrick Mullins, won the race last year with a horse probably of a slightly different profile, but I think similarly talented. Gaillard de Menil probably isn't as good as Statler. Less of a stayer, that is for sure, but he's got some decent form and he's run some good races over 2.5 miles, even 2 miles all the way up to this trip when running in the Irish Grand National. So he can run well here. I think he'll win. His even money is one where I won't be having too much on him. Depends how the horses go before. But if you want a winner in the last, I think Gaillard de Menil is your best chance. So I've just realised I've been talking for well over 15 minutes now. So there are my bets for day 1 of the Cheltenham Festival. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join my Discord group. I'll leave a link in the description for that. There'll be plenty of debate and tips over the next couple of days. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon for day 2. Best of luck out there.